Hey, Pascal here, nice to see you again. In today's tutorial I will show you how to edit GoPro Hero 7 videos. My name is Pascal Basel and in 2015 I quitted my job to escape the rat race and travel the world. While doing that I rediscovered my old passion for filmmaking and learned to fly drones. Now I make videos of the most beautiful places in the world. Be part of my adventures and learn how to make cinematic travel videos. I think this is not the first video about the GoPro Hero 7 that you watch, so you probably already know that this is a great camera, but I would say that a lot of the people that buy the GoPro Hero 7 don't really know how to properly edit the footage so that it looks professional afterwards. And so I wanted to create this tutorial here to show that to you, at least how I did it. This video is related to a video that I published around 2 weeks ago, and in this video I showed some cinematic footage of the GoPro Hero 7, so a lot of people were quite impressed and asked me in the comments how I did it. So in this tutorial I will show you, or I will use this video as an example to show you how I edit GoPro Hero 7 videos. So let's get into Final Cut. So I'm using Final Cut for video editing, as you can see, and I used it also for this GoPro video. First thing here, I already published a tutorial last week on how to color correct underwater footage. So this that part here, I will just link the video here and you can watch that if you want to know more about that, because I didn't use a filter under the water. And I would say where the video really started and where most people asked how I did it was from here. And just a little disclaimer before here, like the style of your video, how you cut it, how you make the transitions, how you color correct it and so on. This is up to you. I just want to make it like that. I show you how I did it, but I also want to tell you how you can use those insights in your videos to make them better instead of just copying my style or so on. So let's get started here, and like the first effect that you can see here is this one, where I'm going through the window and have a zoom transition here. And the first thing here, as you can see, it looks a bit flat right now. I actually turned the colors off, the color corrections. I'm using Film Convert to color it, so that's quite easy. You choose your camera manufacturer, then your camera model and the color profile you were shooting in. Then you can adjust, like putting in some contrast and raising the saturation and so on. So after that it looks around like that. Then I also use some color curves to make it more beautiful. Like this is also to give it some additional contrast, just a slight S curve. And then I applied a bit more color correction to give it another look. I think here in that shot I turned out some of the greens because the shot was a bit greenish. And yeah, that's basically how I color corrected that. And later I apply this look grade using Color Finale, and there I give it this letterbox effect with 2.35 to 1. As you can see, before and after, this adds those cinematic bars here. It looks a bit nicer, a little bit more cinematic. You can actually adjust the framing of your shot here also. That's quite nice. And what I also do, I applied a LUT. It's like in that case you cannot see the look so much, it doesn't make so much of a difference, but in other clips it makes the more difference. And this is the steel teal look here from Ryan Angle. You can just use the look that you want, just look around, and I only applied 0.5%, 50%, like 0.5, simply because otherwise it would be a bit too much for this clip, but also for others. So don't do too much with that. And of course you should really learn color grading if you want to get more into that, because just by applying a LUT, that doesn't mean that you don't have to work on that anymore, because some of the clips here, I don't know, maybe 40 clips or something in that video. So sometimes you get the problem that the shots, the clips don't really match each other. So you need to learn how to match the colors of all the clips, especially if you use different cameras. And also still sometimes if you do it, it's like sometimes something doesn't match. So for example, if I'm here and like after color grading the blues in the sky wouldn't match, then if you know how to do it, then for example I would, let's say the sky has the wrong color here, then I would simply color correct that by using those curves here or by using Color Finale. So here you can see right now I could change the complete look of the sky, make it a bit more greenish or more bluish or whatever I want to have. So I would say before you start using LUTs, really learn a bit more about color grading, because that really makes a huge difference at the end. And yeah, that also makes it easier in the long term. But yeah, today, like in this video, I will not show more color grading or stuff like that, because that's such a big topic, it would take too much time. So yeah, let's get started with that transition here. So as you can see, this is actually very easy. It's just a zoom transition. And this is a zoom transition from Motion VFX. It's called M Transition Zoom, custom zoom in, that one here. And it's that simple, I just dragged it on there and it's in. So you can basically create zoom transitions by yourself, but it's a lot of work. So why would you put in all those work if there are presets or plugins already out there, right? So this plugin is a bit more expensive. It was around $50, I think. But there are cheaper ones, or you can actually get some effects for free if you Google. If I find some for free, I will just link them in the description below. And also what I have here, for example, from Ryan Nangle, I have those zoom transitions also. I also have zoom transitions from, who is it? From Pixel Film Studios, the Trans Zoom, it's also there. I think it's a bit cheaper. So you can just watch around and look what zoom transitions you like. The reason why I have so many different zoom transitions is that really for different situations, different circumstances, you want to have different zooms. Like here I wanted to have a zoom that has a lot of motion blur, that is quite long, and the zoom itself should take a bit longer. Like you see, okay, it's not that easy to see right now, but the zoom really stretches the image and so on. I really like that. For that move through the window, it really worked. That's why I used this zoom effect here. In other scenes, I use the zooms from Ryan Nangle because it's a bit quicker, like pop. And yeah, it really depends on the shots what I want to have. So that's why I have different zoom transitions. And yeah, as you can see, like it goes through the window and suddenly we're in Bangkok. That's a nice transition for that, I would say. And what I also did with that Bangkok footage here, I used this time warp feature in the GoPro Hero 7. So I already had like a hyperlapse clip, but I wanted to have it even faster. And as you can see here, like right now it shows normal, but when I press Command R, it shows the speed indicator here, and then you can actually slow it down or speed it up. Let's make it backwards. And you can also double click here and you can just type in the amount that you want to have. I wanted to speed it up a little bit more, that's why I used that. And what I also did then is I applied a plugin or an effect called MW Motion Blur Maximum. It's a plugin from Mark Webster. And what you can see what it does here, it adds motion blur to that clip. And I would say because there's such a fast movement here, it really smoothes that out a bit. It looks a lot better. So that's why I applied it here. Like, you can really see the difference instantly. Like, now it's hanging. So here it's all sharp and that doesn't look so fluid and so on. So with a little bit more motion blur, it looks just better. So much for that clip. And yeah, one more thing that I want to mention here when you use those zoom transitions is that you have to think about the direction of your camera movement. Like here in both clips, you see that the camera moves in the same direction. Like here it moves forward, and in the second clip it also moves forward. So of course when both clips move forward and I would use a zoom out transition, it would look quite weird. So in that case, zoom in and it directly looks good just because the cameras both move forward. For example, let's say here, that is a zoom out effect. And here in the first shot, the camera is moving backwards, and in the second shot, let's just remove this effect for a while. So it's also moving backwards here, as you can see. And of course, in that case, I need to use a zoom out transition, otherwise it would look totally weird. And here, like, it's a bit special. In that case, it's still the zoom out transition, and then I'm going to the left. But in that case, it actually works, because the camera movement here at the end of the clip is very slow moving backwards. So when I apply this crazy slide transition here, then it still looks natural, also because of all the motion blur. But in a lot of cases that won't look pretty good, so be careful with that. Like with the trick really with those smooth transitions, with zoom transitions, with slide transitions and so on, is really to find the right clips or bringing the correct clips together. You want to have the same camera movement, and if possible it should also match the story. That's not always the case, but I see a lot of people that use those zoom transitions all the time, or those like smooth transitions, and they overuse it. Like sometimes it just doesn't look good and it doesn't match the story, and in that case just don't use it, and it's better to just do a jump cut like here. Like this is clip 1 and then just blend in clip 2. Like this is the standard. You don't really need those transitions here to make your footage look better or stuff like that. Most important is how you sort those clips. Because let's say, for example, if you have a look at directors like Philip Bloom, for example, he never really uses those crazy transitions, but his videos are amazing, and this is because he tells great stories. So story is more important than those transitions. The next thing that I used here to like bringing those clips together is also same camera movement, but without the transition. Like here you can see I'm moving to the right while I'm turning the camera to the left, so that the background moves fast. And here in the next clip with a tempo, it's exactly the same. So it's 2 times the same movement, and our brain likes that when we have the same movement all the time. That's why I positioned these clips together. Gives a nice impression. What I also did in the final video here, I also applied this motion blur plugin that we had before. And what you can see here now, and this is why I love this plugin, is that our main object here still stays sharp, while the moving objects, like the background here, they become unsharp, so or blurry. Like this is a great effect. It separates the objects in the foreground from the background here. That looks pretty nice, and that's a huge difference to the internal blur from Final Cut. Because let's say I would go to blur now and go to directional blur, apply that. You can clearly see here that everything gets blurry, and I don't want to have everything blurry. I only want to have the moving parts blurry, like it is now. So that looks a lot better. So that's why I use that plugin here. I will link it in the description below. It's from Mark Webster, motion blur. It's here, MW motion blur effect. You have different kinds of motion blur here, but the maximum here worked pretty good. And then the next thing that I used a lot here, and that's why I actually say you should film in 4K 60, or if you publish in 1080, I would actually suggest to record in 2.7K 60 or 120, is that you can slow it down. Like in a lot of clips that you see in this video, I slowed them down to 40%. And here this is important. Let's say you film in 60p, in 60 frames per second, but you publish your video in 30 frames per second, then you can only slow it down to 50%. I published my video in 24p, in 24 frames per second. It's a bit more cinematic. That's why I can actually slow it down to 40%. So don't do it if you want to publish in 30p, or if you shoot in PAL. Let's say you have 50 frames footage and you want to publish in 25p, then you can also only slow it down to 50%. So keep that in mind. And the trick is also that, I mean, the GoPro Hero 7 has great stabilization, but the problem is that even with a gimbal, you never get 100% perfectly stabilized footage. And when you slow it down, your footage, then it automatically looks a bit smoother than before. So that makes it look even better. So in that clip, what I also did, as you can see, it's not all the time 40%, but here in the beginning, I speeded it up to 1000% actually, and here to 500%. That is called speed ramping. So in that case, you can see we're moving pretty fast with the people, then they are cheering, and I slow that down because it looks nice and I want the people to see that they are cheering. And then at the end, bam, it also does a speed ramp here to 500% of the speed. So, okay, obviously I do that here because I want to speed the beginning up. But what I do here at the end, the reason why I speed it up at the end is because I want to make a speed ramp transition so that the end of the first clip is speeded up. And how you usually do it is that you speed up the beginning of the second clip, and then it's a smooth transition also. Also in that case, the camera movement should be in the same direction if possible. But in that case here I had a kind of a problem because the camera movement was not in the same direction. Like you can see here, the camera is moving up, and here the camera is moving to the right. So that was kind of a problem. I mean, it still looks good if I do a speed ramp here and then I'm there. It's not bad, you can do it. But it looks smoother if I use half of a slide or panning transition here. As you can see now, pan. Now you have this little fast upward movement here in the second clip. And this is an effect that I use also from Ryan Nangle. It's basically a transition effect, but how he did it here is it's called smooth transition layers. So let's just go to some other clips to show that to you. Let's say like this is a pan up, and you have pan up 1 and pan up 2. So over the first clip you apply pan up 1. Over the second clip you apply pan up 2, and then it creates this upward movement, like this little upward flip here that you see. So this is great because it gives you a bit more flexibility, and you can actually combine transitions, like you can pan up and then I could also do a pan right over that. Yes, it would pan up and at the same time pan to the right. Like that looks pretty cool. So in my case here, like mentioned before, I had the problem that here was no upward movement in the shot, so I couldn't make the full speed ramp here. So I simply used the second part of that effect to give an impression of that upward movement and make it a bit smoother. The same here also, I applied this motion blur effect from Mark Webster again. And here you can see it again, like that stays pretty sharp while the background is blurry, and I love it, it looks so nice. So yeah, that's how I did that. And then I have one more that I want to show here to you. And when I turn all the effects off in that clip, you can see that it's just me sitting on a balcony with a sunrise in the background. So there's not much movement in the shot, it's actually quite boring. So what I did here is you can see this zoom effect, and that's actually quite easy to do. So what you do is you go to scale and you type in 120% at the beginning, then you press keyframe, then you go to the end of the clip, you press the arrow to the left one time to go to the last frame of that clip really, and then you type in 100%, and bam, there you have a zoom out effect. It's that easy. So instead of having a non-moving image here, it looks a lot better directly. And this is also a reason why you should use 4K, or if you publish in 1080 you should use 2.7K, because of course you will lose a bit resolution when you do that. So use 4K, like, I mean, let's be honest, it's 120%. Let's say it's 3.5K or 3.2K resolution that is left because we're zooming in here. No one really sees the difference between 4K and 3.5K or something like that, even 3K or even 2.7K. Most people wouldn't see that. Most people are actually watching the video in 1080 or 2K anyway, so that doesn't make a huge difference here. So I still can publish it in 4K. But let's say you publish in 1080, and it's probably better if you film in 2.7K resolution, because then you have a little bit more space to play here with those zoom effects. And what it's also helping with, another thing, I'm not exactly sure, I think I didn't use it that much. So I got one clip here, it's actually with a football game. And that clip, when I turn the stabilization off, you can see it is quite shaky. I mean, it's not bad, but it's definitely shaky a little bit. So I wanted to have it a bit more steady, so I applied this stabilization. Was already calculating it, so I don't have to do anything anymore. And now, as you can see, like, it's zoomed in a lot actually. That's also one reason, like mentioned before, why you should definitely shoot in 4K or 2.7K. And you see how much smoother it is. Let's see. This is how it is now. And this is how it was before. Like you see, especially here in that area, this jitter of the camera here. If I turn the stabilization on, it's gone. It looks a bit better. It's not perfect here right now, but I mean, if it looks a bit amateurish, that's still fine, but I wanted to smooth it out a bit. In other clips, let's say you have some slight shakes in your camera still, and then it can really rescue your footage. And there are two kinds of stabilizations inside Final Cut. This is the smooth cam right now. It usually detects the right one automatically, but sometimes, let's say smooth cam zooms in way too much or it looks bad, then you can switch to inertia cam, and it also does a great job. Just play a bit around with the slider here. Like here, in that case, actually inertia cam zooms in a lot too much, I would say. Even if the stabilization works quite good, I would say. Yeah, but yeah, in that case, the smooth cam works a lot better. So you see it's not zoomed in like crazy and it's still stable enough. So I use that a lot too, not just with the GoPro, but also with other cameras. And you can also use this stabilization of Final Cut when you do, for example, speed ramp transitions, because sometimes with the speed ramping then it looks a bit shaky, and you can actually get rid of the shake when you use this stabilization in post-production. So that's also a nice trick sometimes to make your footage a bit better. So let's come to the last edit that I want to show you in this video, and here we have two clips. First, normal football playing, and here's also football playing, but with this guy running through the shot. This is actually good. I love when people running through my shots because it's a nice transition, but it takes a lot of time to make because we need to cut it out. As you can see here, like here's the first clip and here's the second clip, so I masked it out here. So what I basically did, I cut it out the first few frames of this second clip. As you can see right now, like the first frame is where he is just coming into the shot with his leg, and then the last clip is where this right side of his leg covers the complete frame. So I cut that out and inserted it over the first clip. And then I used this masking transition. As you can see here, it's called drawing mask. So if you go to the effects in Final Cut, under masks, you find this draw mask here. Just apply that. And then, like the way how you can use it, I just show it to you quickly. You can insert these control points here. So you see like those points, and then it masks everything out. And now you see I masked that out. What you could do also is to invert that mask. So in that case we would mask out that part here. So just to give you a little explanation of how it works. And so what you do is you draw this mask around here and then it's cut it out. But the problem is, of course, that you need to animate this mask, and that's where all the work comes in. So you set a keyframe, like you choose one frame, like in the middle here, for example, is a good one, where you can mask it out. And then when you did that, you set a keyframe here by pressing that button. And also you go to transform, and you also set keyframes here for position, rotation, and scale. Okay, I didn't do scale here. We don't really need it in that shot, but usually it makes sense to just apply it everywhere, because then you won't get any problems after that. And then you jump to the previous or the next frame, and then you can simply like move your mask and you can adjust all the points so that it fits perfectly to the shot before. What I then also did is I applied this directional motion blur, so that you can see it looks a bit better here. Like we get, come on, get a small error here, as you can see, but because it's so fast, no one sees that here. So, and yeah, then it looks like that. I think what I also did here to make it a bit easier for me is that I speeded up this clip. As you can see, like this beginning of the clip is speeded up to 300%. Because the faster that clip is, of course, the less animation I need to do. Like right now, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames. So I had to adjust my mask for 5 frames, so only 5 keyframes. And if I would use 100% of the speed here, then it would be 15 keyframes, so it's a lot more work. So that's why I usually speed up those clips at the transitions. It saves me a lot of time. Just a little trick here. So these transitions are really crazy to do. It takes a lot of time, it's a lot of work. Just don't only use them when it's really necessary and you really want to be cool with your video. Yeah. Okay. So that's basically everything here. Of course, it was not the complete editing of the video. That took me like 8 hours or so. It would be a bit too much to show. But all the rest of the cutting part was basically just some variations of what I showed you here. So I would say really the most important thing is to really learn how to bring everything together, because technically it's everything pretty easy. If you have Final Cut or Adobe Premiere and you have some plugins and so on, then it's very easy to do. But like mentioned before, for example, if you insert those smooth transitions in the wrong places and so on, then it just doesn't look good and it makes your video cheaper or cheaper looking than it actually could be without those transitions. So really think of where does transitions make sense, where do you want to add motion blur, how to use speed ramping and so on. This all matters a lot, and yeah, I would say like just train a lot. Like go out, shoot a lot of videos, then sit on your computer and edit one video after another. The way how I learned it was actually that I challenged myself by saying that I will bring out 1 video per week, and I did it for around 1.5 years now. Of course, there were some weeks in between where it didn't work out, where I had some video jobs to do and I just didn't find the time. But I was sticking to it as much as I could, and that's how I really became better and better at it. If you watch some of the videos that are like 1 year ago or more on my channel, then you will see that they are not as good as my videos are now. And this is simply because I put it in all the hours. I was sitting so much in front of the computer editing, and that way I learned, or I get a feeling on how I can use all of that technical stuff. So I hope you learned a lot in that video, and like mentioned before, I publish 1 video per week. This is either a tutorial or travel videos, so to don't miss out those videos in the future, please hit the subscribe button now. And if you have any questions, then feel free to ask in the comments below. I will ask every comment as long as it's not spam, of course. So yeah, just feel free to ask. Maybe I can produce some more tutorials if you have some specific questions. So I would say see you in the next videos, and bye.